I can still recall that evening as clearly as if it were happening now. The night when my entire world was split in half. My plan was to be at the hospital working an overnight shift. Being a heart doctor in Boston had consumed so many of my years. But that evening, a fellow doctor offered to take my shift, and I eagerly accepted. For once, I could do something thoughtful for my husband, Thomas. I stopped at a small wine store near our apartment, buying a bottle of Cabernet, his favorite. Then, I picked up a box of dark chocolates from a little shop down the block. My heels echoed quietly as I hurried home, giddy like a girl about to surprise her first love. I even slipped off my shoes in the elevator, so he wouldn't hear me coming, imagining how I would greet him and say, "I'm all yours tonight. No work. No emergencies, just us." When I quietly unlocked the door and stepped in, I smiled, seeing his car keys on the table. But then I froze. From our bedroom, I heard a soft, feminine laugh, intimate, unmistakable. Then Thomas's voice, husky and low, said, "You're incredible, Diana." My stomach turned to ice. I couldn't move or even breathe. For a second, I hoped it was just the TV, but the sound of sheets and a sigh that was not mine ended that hope. My grip on the wine bag shook so much that the bottle knocked against the chocolate box. I wanted to turn around and disappear, but my body would not let me. My feet felt glued to the floor. There were unfamiliar shoes in the hallway, bright red stilettos, carelessly tossed near the closet. A thick, musky perfume hung in the air, one I'd never wear. My heart thundered as I looked at the half-open bedroom door and saw the shadows moving behind it. "I thought your wife would be home," the woman whispered. "She's working overnight, saving lives," Thomas replied, his voice dripping with arrogance. I slammed the door behind me, the noise cutting through their fantasy. I heard frantic rustling and whispers. And then Thomas appeared, struggling to button his shirt. He had the audacity to look shocked and guilty, but only for a moment. Then he straightened up, as confident as ever. "This isn't what it looks like, Julia." My own voice sounded distant, as if it belonged to a stranger. "Really? Because it seems exactly what I think it is." The woman stepped out of our bedroom, tall, blonde, beautiful in a cold, perfect way, wearing my silk robe, the one Thomas gave me for my birthday last year. She smiled coolly. "Diana," she said, as if greeting me at a coffee shop. "Didn't expect to meet you like this. Life's unpredictable." "That's my robe," I said quietly. "Oh, I didn't know." Thomas offered it. She shrugged, starting to untie it as if she'd take it off right there. "Enough, Diana," Thomas snapped, finally losing his composure. "Julia, we need to talk. This is just a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding? You were in our bed with her." "Thomas, don't be crude. You're a doctor. Show some class." Something inside me snapped. I hurled the wine and chocolates at the wall, the bottle bursting and streaking red across the white paint. Diana flinched. Thomas stepped away. "You're pathetic," he muttered, raising his voice. "You think you can just walk out and take Ryan? He's staying with me." I glared at him. "Ryan was never your son, Thomas. Not in your heart." And that was it. I left, barefoot, tears streaming down my face, with only one thought: get my boy and never come back to this toxic place. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of a bed in my friend Vicky's apartment, cradling a cold cup of tea. Ryan slept on the couch, holding his stuffed fox like it was the only safe thing in the world. I watched him and thought, this is it. Boston is over. Thomas is over. This life is over. In the morning, I called a lawyer. Divorce would be long and messy. Thomas would fight. Because that's what he did. But he couldn't stop me from leaving. Where will you go? Vicky asked. Pouring more tea. Anywhere but here. I replied, surprised by my own certainty. I need quiet, space for Ryan, and time to heal before this city drowns me. That afternoon, while Ryan napped, I searched for houses. I wasn't sure what I wanted, but I found myself looking at Vermont, a place I'd only visited once, but never forgotten. Rolling hills, green mountains, rivers, and old towns that felt untouched by time. One listing caught my eye. A weathered farmhouse on the edge of a small town. 2 stories, a wraparound porch, apple trees in the yard. The price was strangely low, but something pulled me toward it. I called the number. An older man answered, his voice warm but a little shaky. Walter Finch here. He explained he was alone now, diagnosed with late-stage lung cancer, and wanted to sell but stay until the end. It's the only home I have left, he said. I understand, I replied, and I truly did. 2 days later, Ryan and I packed everything into my old SUV. He sat in back, holding his Fox and a sketchbook. Is this a vacation, Mom? No, sweetie, I said, glancing at him in the mirror. We're going somewhere better, a place we can really belong. With every mile between us and Boston, I felt something inside relax. Boston's skyline faded, replaced by hills and barns. Look, Mom, a covered bridge. Ryan pointed, amazed. It's like a fairy tale. Maybe it is, I whispered, gripping the steering wheel, finally feeling the weight of my old life slide away. We arrived at dusk. The farmhouse looked just like the photos, old, proud, with white paint peeling and a porch swing creaking in the wind. Walter waited for us, tall but stooped, neatly dressed. He seemed proud despite his frailty. You must be Dr. Summers, he said, offering his hand. And this must be Ryan. Welcome to Finch House. Ryan hid behind my leg, whispering, he looks like Grandpa from my book. I smiled. Thank you for letting us come. And in that instant, I sensed we had just stepped into a place where everything could change. The house was alive with memories I hadn't lived yet. When Walter opened the door, the smell of aged wood, dried herbs, and something sweet, like apples, greeted us. Ryan walked in slowly, eyes wide. It's like a museum, Mom. Walter chuckled. It's not a museum, but it's been in my family since 1889. My great-grandfather built it. Every mark has a story. He showed us around, shelves lined with leather books, a huge old globe, a cast-iron stove in the kitchen. Upstairs, he showed us a little room with a view of the orchard. This could be Ryan's. My son peered out at the apple trees, biting with cold. I love it, he said simply. For a child who never liked new places, he seemed calmer here. Maybe because of Walter. Maybe because of the house. After the tour, Walter led us to the porch, where 2 wooden chairs rocked in the breeze. He sat down, slow but steady. I'll be honest, Dr. Summers, Julia. He corrected himself with a grin. I didn't expect someone like you to come here. Thought some company would turn it into cabins or just knock it down. But you're here with a kid. And you look like you've carried too much for one life. I sat beside him. I needed a new beginning. Boston became too loud, too painful. He nodded, like he understood. Pain clings to cities, he said. Here, it's quieter, easier to heal. Ryan was already in the orchard, his fox poking from his pocket as he examined each tree. Walter leaned in. He'll do well here. Kids need room to just be. For the first time in weeks, my chest felt lighter. Thank you for letting us stay. Walter, I know it's odd to sell, but still let us live here with you. He smiled. We need each other. I think. He said quietly. I have nobody left. My son died a decade ago. My wife, long before that. The doctors say my time is short. But I'm not scared. I just don't want this house to end with me. I put my hand gently on his. Then let's keep it alive together. For a moment, I saw the man he'd been: strong, rooted, proud. That night, I cooked dinner while Ryan ran around outside. Walter read aloud from a book about Vermont, his voice filling the room with comfort. I realized I hadn't felt peace like this in years. Our first morning there, I woke to a quiet so deep it startled me. No traffic, no sirens, no shouting neighbors, only the distant calls of birds and the settling of the house. Ryan was already outside, studying something in the grass. I took my coffee to the porch, where Walter stood, hands in his vest, smiling at my son. He's curious, he said. That's a gift. Curiosity keeps you young. Ryan waved, holding up a perfect red apple. Can I eat it? Just wipe it off first. Walter smiled. That was how our new life began. Slow mornings, small happinesses. I started work at the local medical clinic, a tiny place compared to Boston, but filled with people who genuinely cared. The nurses greeted me with curiosity, and by week's end, I was invited to a Friday potluck. Ryan adjusted quicker than I hoped. His small school had only 2 classrooms, but he came home with muddy shoes and stories about new friends, including a farm boy named Liam. My once shy child was blossoming. Even Walter changed. He'd sit with Ryan by the fireplace, reading tales of explorers and pioneers. I watched from the kitchen, feeling something warm and safe in my heart I'd forgotten I could feel. One Saturday, Walter invited us to help in his garden. I might be old, but I can still grow tomatoes, he joked, handing Ryan a spade. But some young help would be nice. I'd never gardened before. My Boston life was all glass, steel, and pressure. But there I was, on my knees, planting beans under Walter's instruction. The earth was rich and alive. Ryan's laughter filled the air. That night, we sat on the porch, hands stained with dirt, sipping lemonade as Walter told us about the town. He spoke of festivals, neighbors who always helped each other, winters that brought everyone together. Community, that's what keeps us human. Lose that, you lose everything. His words struck me. Boston gave me status, but not a sense of belonging. Here, for the first time, I felt like I might actually fit in. After Ryan fell asleep that night, I lingered in the kitchen, watching Walter polish an old pocket watch. You look lighter, Julia, he said. Whatever you carried here is slipping away. I nodded. Maybe this place really is healing us. Walter looked at the orchard. This house has seen so much pain, joy. It gives people what they need. For the first time, I believed him. Then one night, as I worked on patient files, I heard Walter coughing, a deep, rattling sound. I'd heard him cough before, blaming age and Vermont winters. But this was different. Walter, I called. He waved off my concern. Just the usual. Don't worry about me, Dr. Summers. But I did worry. You said you had late-stage lung cancer. Could I see your medical file? I asked gently. If I'm living here with Ryan, I want to understand. He hesitated, then nodded. The diagnosis was made by Dr. Alan Monroe, the local clinic's head doctor. I'd met Monroe smooth, charming, but something about him felt off. I checked Walter's file. The x-rays were blurry, the notes vague. No biopsy, just a vague, probably terminal. Did they ever do a biopsy? I asked. No. He said it wasn't needed at my age. He told me to settle my affairs. That phrase set off alarm bells. That night, after Walter went to bed, I scanned the records and sent them to a specialist I trusted in Boston. I kept it simple. Second opinion. Please. Something's wrong. A week later, my friend called. Julia, this isn't cancer. It's chronic bronchitis with some mild lung changes. Not fatal. Manageable. Whoever diagnosed him was wrong. Relief hit me. Then anger. Someone had convinced Walter he was dying, just to push him out of his home. A couple days later, leaving the clinic, I overheard Monroe in his office with someone. She won't last long out here. Single mom. No roots. She'll sell eventually. The other voice replied. She'd better. That property's perfect for our resort. Keep the old man thinking he's got little time. We'll do the rest. Resort plans, a fake diagnosis, and a scheme to steal land. I backed away, heart racing. That night, I told Walter, "You're not dying. I had your file checked. It's only bronchitis. Monroe lied to you so you'd sell." Walter's face went pale, his eyes full of shock and anger. "Why would someone do this?" he whispered. "Because your home is valuable to them." I answered, "But we're going to fight. You're not losing your house, not to people like that." That night, as Ryan slept, I stared out at the orchard and thought of the betrayals I'd faced. This wasn't just about Walter. It was about anyone who'd been told they didn't matter, who'd been manipulated. I decided, not this time. But betrayal has a way of following you. An envelope arrived. No return address, just Thomas's handwriting. Divorce papers. With a generous settlement. 51% of his company in my name. I almost laughed. Thomas. Generous? Then I realized the trap. I called Paul, a smart lawyer I knew from nearby. He reviewed the papers and called back. "Julia, this is a trick. His company is drowning in debt. If you sign, you'll be liable for everything when it collapses. He's trying to ruin you financially, make you desperate enough to sell your new property." My heart pounded. Thomas knew about the house. He planned this. Thomas and Monroe, different motives. Same target, Finch House. I called Thomas. He answered. "All fake charm. Jules, glad you called. Just sign and keep the house. Everyone's happy. Your company is bankrupt. Thomas, you're just dumping your problems on me." He laughed cruelly. "You really think Vermont will save you? That house is a burden. Not a home. Take the deal. Sell it. And we move on." "I'll never sign, Thomas. And I'm not selling this house." He laughed again. "We'll see, Jules." After I hung up, Walter looked at me with concern. "Bad news." I nodded. "They're all in on it. Monroe, his investor, and now Thomas. They want this house. Over my dead body." Walter muttered. "That's what they're counting on." I said, "But they don't know who they're up against." I stayed up all night planning. I asked Paul to dig into Monroe's ties. If they want to fight, we'll fight smart. The next few days were a blur of planning and determination. Paul was relentless, tracing Monroe's finances to his partner, Richard Cole, who'd been buying up land all over the area for a luxury resort. Monroe's role? diagnosing locals with terminal illnesses to force sales. Your house, Walter's land, it's prime real estate. Paul explained. Walter was devastated. I trusted him. He told me I was dying. And I believed him. I squeezed his hand. He won't get away with it. Walter. The plan: expose Monroe's fake diagnosis and tie it to Cole's land grab. I collected statements from others, elderly people pressured to sell after being told they were dying. Paul arranged for an outside review of Walter's case. No cancer. We brought the evidence to the town council. I expected them to dismiss me. But the community had already heard rumors. One by one, people came forward. A farmer, a widow, even a nurse who'd noticed suspicious payments. The council voted to suspend Monroe, and the police opened a formal investigation. Everything unraveled quickly. Thomas, furious, called me. You've made powerful enemies. Julia, do you really think this town will protect you? I let him rant, then answered calmly. I'm done letting you control me. Thomas, I'm done being afraid. Deal with your mess yourself. He hung up. That weekend, the townspeople gathered at Walter's orchard, picking apples, laughing, promising never to let outsiders take their homes again. Ryan played among the trees, while Walter watched, teary-eyed. Never thought I'd see this day, he said. This house isn't just wood and nails. Julia, it's life. And you brought it back. No, Walter, we did. I replied, feeling the last bit of pain from Boston finally fade. Later, Walter handed me a heavy brass key. This was my father's for the attic. And now for you. One day, this will be yours. Promise me you'll keep it alive. I clutched the key. I promise. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was just surviving. I felt at home, ready for whatever was ahead. The investigation moved fast. Monroe lost his license. Cole's resort fell apart under fraud charges. Thomas sold what was left of his company and finally faced his own debts. For the first time since I'd left Boston, I could truly breathe. But the biggest change was in our house. The farmhouse was no longer just someone else's memory, it was ours. Ryan filled his room with drawings of apple trees and pinned his first perfect spelling test on the fridge. He played until sundown with friends. Walter changed too, starting physical therapy, quitting smoking, reconnecting with a sister he hadn't seen in years. The night she visited, Walter wept with gratitude. One golden afternoon, Walter announced a celebration for all who helped save the house. The orchard came alive, tables under the trees, homemade food, music, lanterns. Ryan and the other children raced through the trees. Walter stood on the porch, leaning on his cane, and called out above the laughter and music. This house has stood for over 100 years. I thought its story was ending. But thanks to Julia and Ryan, and all of you, its journey is only just beginning again. The crowd erupted in applause, and I felt my cheeks grow warm. I wasn't used to being the center of attention. My whole career had been behind hospital walls, where victories were silent and private. But this was different. Here, celebration was shared. Here, community meant everything. Later that night, after the last guest had wandered home, and the orchard was quiet again, Ryan fell asleep clutching a caramel apple, his hair sticky with sugar and laughter. Walter and I sat together on the porch swing, gazing out at the dark orchard. The scent of apples and wood smoke drifted in the crisp air. He turned to me, voice softer than I'd ever heard. You didn't just save my life, Julia, you brought back my hope. I'd forgotten what that felt like. I shook my head gently. We rescued each other. Walter, you gave me and Ryan something I didn't think we'd ever find again, a real home. He smiled, eyes glistening. Promise me you'll keep this place full of life. Fill it with laughter and good people. Don't let it ever go silent again." I placed my hand over his. "I promise. I mean it." For the first time in years, I felt hope burning bright in my chest. Boston and all the heartbreak I'd left behind seemed so far away now, almost like it had happened to someone else. Leaving hadn't been the end of my story. It had been the first step toward something true. That evening on the porch, with the orchard glowing under the moon and the house warm behind us, I realized something I'd always told my patients but never truly believed for myself. A broken heart isn't the end. Sometimes, it's the beginning of everything you need to heal. As autumn rolled into winter, our new life grew deeper roots. The farmhouse was no longer just a place with history. It was our story now. 2. Ryan decorated his window with drawings of apple trees and taped his perfect spelling tests to the refrigerator. He spent long afternoons with friends, running wild through fields until the sun dipped behind the mountains, his laughter echoing through the open air. Walter, free from the weight of a false diagnosis, found new purpose. He followed the treatment plan I set up for him, stuck with his physical therapy, and even cut down on his cigarettes. He reached out to his estranged sister, and when she finally came to visit, he broke down in tears, clinging to her hands as if he could hold on forever. Our home filled with stories and warmth. Neighbors stopped by with baskets of fruit, invitations to potlucks, and offers to help with anything we needed. I realized that for the first time in my life, I belonged, not because of what I did for a living, but simply because I was part of this little town. The investigation into Monroe and Cole gathered momentum. Within weeks, Monroe had surrendered his medical license and was awaiting trial. Cole's plans for a resort collapsed under the weight of fraud charges and the growing opposition from the townspeople. Thomas, finally outmaneuvered, quietly withdrew his generous offer and was forced to sell off what was left of his company to pay his debts. The legal threats faded, and so did the shadow of my old life. But the greatest transformation happened in our hearts. The pain and fear that had defined so much of my past loosened its grip. Ryan thrived, his anxiety gone, his laughter easy. He talked about dreams for the future, made friends easily, and brought home little treasures from the woods behind the house. Walter's health stabilized, and his spirit brightened. He took pride in teaching Ryan about the orchard and the land, and the two of them spent long hours together, planting, pruning, and watching the seasons change. I often found myself pausing, watching them from the porch, feeling the peace I'd been searching for finally settle around me. One evening, as the first snow began to fall, Walter found me on the porch. "Do you see it?" he asked, his voice gentle. I looked out at the orchard, the branches dusted with white, the air still and pure. "Yes," I said, tears pricking my eyes. "I do." He squeezed my shoulder. "This is home now, Julia. For you. For Ryan. For all of us." And he was right. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. Truly living. In a place where I was finally safe, loved, and free. The house that once seemed so full of someone else's past had become the heart of our new beginning. Every creak of the floor, every whisper of wind in the orchard, every shared meal or quiet morning coffee, these became our memories, our joy, our hope. And as winter faded into a new spring, I knew that no matter what lay ahead, we had built something strong, lasting, and real. Sometimes, life takes everything from you so you can finally discover what you truly need. For us, heartbreak was not our ending. It was the doorway to home.